Next up, we have Ms. Preethi Srinivas. She's here with us all the way from the United States of America. So thank you so much for coming down. So a bit of information about her. She's a user experience researcher and designer who focuses on understanding and designing products or services that empower people and change lives in meaningful ways. Preethi Srinivas, we are ready to hear your raw story. A big round of applause.
How many of you have gazed into the eyes of an animal and felt an instant connection? Just a show of hands. Nice. So I see a few hands. I have as well. Animals have this unique ability to impart profound lessons about ourselves and the world around us through their silent presence. Today, I'm going to talk about a deep personal story from my life, a time when cows and bulls became healers and life mentors. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Cows, really? Hear me out. Now, cows are remarkable beings. They have actually coexisted with us for like ages, right? And they often offer insights that goes unnoticed. They are actually a treasure trove of wisdom. And I'm going to take this opportunity, thanks to Raw Stories, to offer a glimpse into some of the insights that I was able to learn from my bovine mentors. So a few years ago, I woke up to a bright, sunny morning, but I had these really intense emotions that I was trying to grapple with. It was really overwhelming. But I pulled myself together and made my way to a cow sanctuary regardless. Now, why did I go to this cow sanctuary? Because it is actually spread across like acres of land. It's like green, lush area in almost like a hilly region. And just being there can help some of my emotions settle. As I was wandering around this sanctuary, I spotted Vittel, a young bull calf. Now, Vittel actually has a tragic turn to his life. He lost his mother to a disease just within a few days of him being born. And that particular day, he was actually just sitting by himself. He was just a few feet away from me. And he wasn't eating. He had his head bent down. And it didn't look like he was asleep. So something was off, and I wanted to go check on him. So I started to walk towards him. And as I approached him, I began to wonder, is he feeling sad? Should I do something about it? And I had this urge to uplift his emotions. But I wasn't sure if he would like me being in his personal space. So with all of these questions in my mind, I continued to approach him. And I parked myself beside him with this idea of bailing out in case he doesn't like it. He doesn't move, giving me the silent consent to stay beside him. So a few moments pass, and I sit down. And then it gets to a point where we both feel comfortable with each other's company. In fact, at one point, our eyes meet, and we are actually exchanging glances. And sitting beside him, I feel a sense of connection. We are two beings with our own stories. In fact, at a very fundamental level, we are the same, even though we have two different bodies. We are two individual souls. And we were brought together by circumstance and an unspoken bond. So I reach out, I place one of my hands, offering comfort through touch. But he reacts immediately and he jerks my hand away with his head. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he doesn't want me to touch him. And I quickly recognize that even in the animal world, consent and personal space matters. So I tend to move back, but that's when things take a wild turn. It is something that's very difficult to describe in words. Like to this day, I don't know how Vittel did what he did that day. Within a blink of a moment, I actually went from sitting beside Vittel to actually sitting on him, with his head wrapped around me in what can be described only as a heartfelt hug. And of course, I was caught off guard, right? And I was really surprised. But Vittel understood me, and he looked into my eyes, and he slowly placed his head on my lap, and he closed his eyes, inviting me to embrace him. And we sat there in silence, hugging each other and healing each other. Now, a few years ago, I was hit by a personal traumatizing incident that left me feeling really helpless. Life, with its unpredictable twists and turns, can often impart lessons that no classroom can offer. Right? And I'm sure most of you have experienced that. We've all been in some situation that has caused us to feel emotionally overwhelmed, haven't we? Losing a loved one, heartbreak, rejections, betrayals. The reasons are many. And it is in those testing moments that we tend to lose hope. And concepts like acceptance, forgiveness, or gratitude, all of these seem very distant. And I had a similar experience too. Right? And so what do we do about it? How do we deal with all of this? Which is when cows and bulls stepped in as my healers and also as my mentors. Now, who would have thought that they can actually teach us a thing or two about concepts like forgiveness or acceptance or gratitude or gratefulness? And allow me to share some of the valuable insights I learned from these gentle beings, my bowen mentors, and how that really shaped and transformed me from being this person who had multiple health issues, who actually lost hope in life, and who transitioned to practicing acceptance, forgiveness, and gratitude. Now let's talk about acceptance. Cows exist in herds, just like how we do in families. But they embrace acceptance like no other. They embrace diversity like no other. Different skin color, spots, big horns, small horns, disability, it doesn't matter. They coexist in their bowen community. In fact, some cows can actually be born with physical deformities, but they don't let that affect how they live and how content they are with their life. Take, for instance, Gopal. He's a 5-year-old bull. He lost his ability to move one of his limbs owing to an accident. Or Kamadhenu, a 6-year-old cow. She has a nerve condition that causes her to experience uncontrollable tremors at really random times. Now, both Gopal and Kamadhenu aren't related to one another, but they are still part of the herd. And what's most beautiful is that cows teach us the beauty of living in harmony with nature and the joy of connecting with others. Now, something that's very common that a lot of you may have seen is birds perched on top of cows. This may sound like a very trivial visual sight, but it actually reveals a profound truth about the symbiotic relationship between the two species. The birds actually feed off the bugs or pests that are causing discomfort for the cow. The cow doesn't judge the feathered species that's sitting on top of her. Right? And speaking of judgment, cows don't judge us humans as well. Today, anyone, and I mean anyone, can actually go sit next to a cow and with her consent, pour their heart out. No questions asked, no judgments made. Cows don't get into solutioning mode, and they don't really, judge you. Right now, it's going to be very difficult for us to imagine a cow sitting on a couch and taking the role of a therapist, right? But their calm presence, their soulful eyes, and their sage-like nod when you're actually talking to them turns out to be pretty therapeutic. There's actually something very divine about the way cows connect with us humans. In fact, there's actually evidence-based research that speaks to this therapeutic effect when a human interacts with cows in a farm-like setting over a period of time. provided this is done in an environment where the human and the animal are comfortable. So what I learned from my bovine mentors is that when we accept ourselves and others, we are actually helping create a more peaceful and a harmonious world. Now let's talk about forgiveness. Cows actually have the knack for this. Right? They don't hold grudges. Today, unfortunately, a very common sight globally is for people who actually milk cows, they separate the mother and the child. And they send the animal for slaughter at a point when the cow is no longer able to provide milk. Now, abusively milking cows or killing the animal for food is absolutely not the right thing to do. In fact, globally, our ancestors demonstrated not doing this. And it's actually a topic for another day. But the point that I'm trying to make is, even at points of abuse, cows are able to forgive us humans. Now, that doesn't mean that we continue to be abusive, right? We may want to learn and adapt. In fact, there is behavioral research that speaks to this concept that cows who are mistreated or abused over a period of time can actually learn to trust and love humans again. Cows are able to forgive and move on. Take, for instance, Swati. She's a 5-year-old cow. She was raised at a beef farm in Texas. All her life, she was abused and mistreated until she was brought to a cow sanctuary. Now, unfortunately, on the day that she landed at this sanctuary, she ran away out of fear and lack of trust for humans. And what this led to is her new caregivers basically going after her and rescuing her and bringing her back. But in that process, she got physically hurt. And she had to go through this really long healing journey. Of course, with time and the love showered by her new caregivers, she began and she learned to trust and love humans. In her struggle, Swati taught me that forgiving is not easy, but it is worth it. You see, when we forgive, we give up the pain of the past. And it's a very, very powerful thing to have because we open our lives to a more brighter future. Now, let's talk about gratitude, gratefulness, right? It's something that we all talk about, but then we struggle to practice it. But it's very different with cows. Now, I don't think we have ever heard anyone speak about their cow expressing, even non-verbally, discontent for the grass being greener on the other side. Of course not, right? Because cows are masters of contentment. Their philosophy is actually very simple. To the Tamil speakers in the house, their philosophy is, Kure ondrum illa Govinda. It's as simple as that. And to give you an example, Surabhi, she's a 7-year-old cow. She's pretty heavy. She weighs over 1,000 pounds. And she struggles from dehydration every summer, irrespective of having access to clean water. And because she's heavy, it's very difficult for her to move and respond to flies attacking her. But irrespective or regardless of her situation, she's actually always calm. She savors every moment. She grazes. She's able to savor the grass and the water that she has access to. And she expresses appreciation to her caregivers by following them around and licking them. So in her calmness and compassion, Surabhi taught me that gratitude is actually a very powerful emotion. When we are grateful, we are happy, and we are able to better connect with others. Now, all of these insights are great, right? They actually help they shape the life philosophies. But these are philosophies that are often spoken about, especially it's very frequent today. In the company of cows and bulls, these concepts actually turn into practice. I went from being a person who had multiple health issues, who had lost hope in life, who questioned my purpose, to a person who was able to adapt these principles and practice them. So how did it happen? And I can hear some of you asking this question. Selfless service to cows and bulls. Imagine dedicating your time and energy to these gentle souls. That's right. I'm actually suggesting taking your time out of your day to feed them, to tend to their environment, to ensure that they are comfortable. And what this does is it actually creates a synergy of care, not only for the animals, but also us humans. And that's most powerful. You see, that day when Vittal actually hugged me, he became a vessel of divine presence. He reminded me of a very powerful compassion that sits in my heart, a power that heals and guides us, and a power that weaves us into this world of existence. And when we selflessly serve, we actually mirror the kindness in our heart. We are able to empathize and bridge this gap between the species, demonstrating that compassion actually knows no bounds. And selflessly serving isn't just an act, right? It is actually a key to unlocking the compassion in our heart. It is the key to being connected to that divine supreme power. And taking even a few steps back, right? Thinking about the bigger picture, by selflessly serving cows and bulls, we actually help build a better planet. From everything that's happening in the world today, we know that sustainable practices that prioritize the welfare of these animals actually lead to a more healthier environment. And so when we dedicate our time and energy, it's actually a win-win for everyone. And we embrace the core principles of humanity, which is empathy, kindness, and respect. A few years ago, I questioned the purpose of my life. Today, I travel the world, advocating for the message to befriend and love cows and bulls, with the only goal that when we do that, we actually make the world a better place, not only for the animals, but also for us and for the future. I invite you to see cows and bulls through a different light. Prioritize your time. Visit a farm or shelter or sanctuary. Befriend cows and bulls. Love them and show your respect to them through selfless service. And watch how they quickly turn out to be your healers and your mentors, so you are able to practice acts of forgiveness, acceptance, gratitude. All of this only causing you to lead a more content, happy, and fulfilling life. In a world that feels divided, a simple act of dedicated selfless service to cows and bulls can actually unite us. And this is an opportunity for us to rewrite this narrative and to create a legacy of love and compassion. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Sarvam Shri Krishna arpanamastu.